A few weeks ago, the cultural commentator and satirist Jim Bob hosted a stream in which the new Orthodox apologist cleaved to antiquity, discussed true orthodoxy, and attempted to point out the flaws within the position. However, as I will demonstrate within this video, Cleve ultimately fails in this goal due to a misunderstanding of the true Orthodox position, which causes him to unfortunately propagate false ideas about true orthodoxy to an audience which is most likely unfamiliar with it. I will split this video into 3 sections. In part 1, I will analyze the presence of the genuine Orthodox within the wider Orthodox world. In part 2, I will cover the misconceptions Cleve has about true Orthodox ecclesiology. And in part 3, I will offer some pushback on Cleve's historical interpretation of the methodology behind the genuine Orthodox separation from the mainstream Orthodox hierarchies. Before I continue with this critique, it is important that I inform the audience that I will be basing my disagreements with Cleve on the synodal statements and viewpoint of the genuine Orthodox Church under Archbishop Callinicos and her sister churches, which composes the overwhelming majority of true Orthodox Christians around the world. This disclaimer incidentally ties into my first issue with Cleve's analysis of true orthodoxy.
Hey, welcome. So I don't know if you've debated these people. I always wonder why. Is it just a numbers thing, like that they don't really show up in proper debates a lot? It's just a matter of like they're just not well represented?
Well, dude, they're all separated. Like, it's not one communion. It's
Okay.
a bunch of random, small, tiny sects that are split up. That's why I was saying in Greece, it's a bigger thing. They call themselves the Zealots. You'll even have some monasteries there. But in the American context, I mean, you look at some of the, like, TO monastics, and they're just in trailer parks.
Mhm.
The guy that streams with Joseph Swaden, he's the monk. He was saying like he was trying to get ordained as like an Orthodox priest. He was trying to get ordained as like a Catholic priest. They wouldn't have him because there was some criminal history or something. So the TO were like, yeah, let's go ahead. So they have like no canonical standards, at least in the United States. If you were to go and check out there's a GOC YouTube channel.
Mhm.
That's the Genuine Orthodox Church
Right.
YouTube channel.
Okay.
That guy, the Archbishop, what is his name? Archbishop something of Colorado. He does like, I mean, their arguments are wild. He's like, Seraphim Rose is not a saint because he has a dirty beard. You'll hear some pretty crazy arguments.
When discussing true orthodoxy, world Orthodox critics often preface their objections by trying to show that true orthodoxy consists of a very small minority of Orthodox adherents, and that the separated and fractured groups often lack canonical order, and do not play a very strong role within the Orthodox world. They assert these ideas as a way to show the absurdity of the position, and allude to the idea that one does not need to look very far to realize that true orthodoxy is fake. Earlier in the year, the former apologist Jay Dyer, in an interview with the Protestant social media personality Ruslan KD, had similar things to say.
Got that question. What about, I know some true Orthodox claim to be more aligned to these councils than Eastern Orthodox. Have you engaged with the true Orthodox? What is your thoughts on the true Orthodox? Because they kind of have a lot of what you're describing, but they say, but we're even more hardcore and we take these councils even more seriously.
Yeah, the problem is my good buddy David Erhan, he's done a couple good videos rebutting this, so people could go, if they want a longer treatment, you could look at David Erhan's videos on his channel that address the true Orthodox claims. This is a very, very tiny, I mean, it's almost non-existent in the real world. I mean, I've seen one chapel in my travels across the country of an actual one of these groups. So it's all, I mean, even if you did want to go that route, like you would basically not have a church unless you were in Florida. I think they have one in Florida. But aside from that, it would mean essentially that all the canonical churches have failed, and there's not. It's basically a Donatist type position. So I would argue, first of all, Donatism would mean an end of the episcopacy, and the church is basically dead
because it's smaller, because it's
almost non-existent. The minuscule groups that do exist, they're all out of communion with each other. There's probably 5 groups that are all not in communion.
Although it is correct that true orthodoxy is a small minority of the broader Orthodox world, and that there are separate groups which do not hold communion with each other, these descriptions make it seem as if true orthodoxy is smaller and more divided than it actually is. In reality, as mentioned before, the majority of true Orthodox adherents, up to around 85%, belong to one communion. The Romanian Old Calendarists, the only other significant communion of true Orthodox and largest singular true Orthodox church, could very well be assumed to hold the rest, with small numbers remaining in other groups. Additionally, the fact that there are multiple communions within a broader religious tradition does not by itself disprove the position, just as the multiple Christian denominations do not refute Christianity. Furthermore, the fact that one church may be out of communion with another does not necessarily mean that one is in the church and one is not, and there have been many periods in history where many Orthodox bishops were out of communion with each other, such as during the iconoclast controversy and during the catacomb periods of the Russian Church under communism. Although both Cleve and Dyer are correct that true Orthodoxy in America is small, the idea that there are, quote, only small monasteries and trailer parks, or that the only true Orthodox church in America is in Florida, is evidently absurd. The genuine Orthodox Church in America has many historic and vibrant Orthodox churches, such as the Cathedral of St. Markella in Astoria, New York, or the St. Isidorus of Chios Orthodox Church in Bethpage, New York. Pictured on the screen is a map of all the true Orthodox churches which are present in America. I will link this down in the description. Not only does the genuine Orthodox Church in America have a number of beautiful monasteries not in trailer homes, these monasteries are also of great historical significance within the context of Orthodoxy in the United States. For example, if you walk into any Orthodox parish, you will find the Menaion, Octoikos, Pentecostarian, and many other liturgical books which look like this. These works are often regarded as the best English translations available of the liturgical services, and are produced by the Holy Transfiguration Monastery in Brookline, Massachusetts, a monastery which aligns itself with the broader genuine Orthodox tradition. Additionally, those who attend parishes under the jurisdiction of the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia are probably familiar with the anathema against ecumenism, which was actually a document written by a hieromonk of the monastery by the name of Haralambos, who reposed only a few months ago in the St. John of San Francisco Orthodox Monastery in Cobleskill, another relatively large true Orthodox monastery. As to the claim that the true Orthodox in America have no canonical order, I respond by asking for examples of such grievous violations beyond personal anecdotes. The world Orthodox have engaged in many grievous violations of the canons, and as will be shown in the next segment, true Orthodox do not hold to a theory of auto-excommunication and deposition. The GOCK is a well-established synod which maintains canonical order within its dioceses. As for other true Orthodox jurisdictions, as Cleve is not referring to incidents which happened within the GOCK, I am unaware. Finally, I notice in many critiques of true Orthodoxy that Archbishop Gregory of Colorado is brought up, and used to represent or symbolize the mindset of the true Orthodox as a whole. However, this could not be further from the truth, and is equivalent to using the statements of Archbishop Elphidoporos of America to represent the entirety of Orthodox thought. In fact, Archbishop Gregory was deposed by the synod which ordained him, and has been denounced by figures of many other true Orthodox jurisdictions. The presentation of Archbishop Gregory's view on St. Seraphim of Plotina is actually quite ironic, being that unlike Cleve to Antiquity, Father Seraphim Rose held to none of the above opinions about the true Orthodox, which is a fact that many world Orthodox are attempting to hide. This is an image of a pre-2001 copy of St. Seraphim's work, Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, which shows support for the true Orthodox within Greece. However, if you have a modern copy printed within the last 20 years, you will notice that these excerpts have been removed. Father Peter Heers offers the following explanation.
Father Bless, I recently found out Father Seraphim Rose's works have been censored. The parts where he spoke highly of the GOC Old Counters. Thank you, Seraphim Webster. Thank you. Yeah, I know all about that. And I'll tell you something. It's unfortunate. I think it's an unfortunate move in the sense that exactly what you're talking about, it just gives more credence to those who in the old calendars to say that the editors of the books are what's the word, deceitful, I guess. I did actually talk to the fathers at St. Herman's about this, and their reasoning, was there was a reason behind what they're doing. It wasn't they didn't feel what they did was wrong, and they justified it. I guess I could share some of the things I remember, but don't quote me, and it's not the entire defense of this, but I want to defend them because I think they're very sincere. But they said that, look, Father Seraphim's understanding of the old calendar said those days is one thing. It's debatable how much he understood about all the different groups. But today things are so different that, we knew Father Seraphim. We knew how he felt about these general things. We don't think that today he would have the exact same stance he had in the 70s, which is likely, right? People change, things change. You're going to have a different stance depending on developments. But and they don't want to support the idea that Father Seraphim would undiscerningly across the board encourage people today to go to the old calendars groups. So they felt it was better for all those who had not been infected or affected by these ideas to just not have to deal with that. And so they removed it. I think it's a mistake. I told them I think it was a mistake. Leave it in and put a footnote is what I would have done.
However, what major changes within the true Orthodoxy have taken place since St. Seraphim's repose? In a letter by Father Seraphim Rose, dated June 11th, 1976, he writes, "The jurisdiction of Archbishop Exentius, on the other hand, has been closer to our church in its acceptance of economy. But last year, they also proclaimed the sacraments of new calendarists invalid, not because they are legally and technically schismatic, which is the Matthewite thinking, but because now, in their view, ecumenism has become a conscious heresy, and therefore the new calendarists are formal heretics. They asked our bishops to make the same decision, and our bishops refused, on the grounds that this is a question beyond their competence to judge." This text shows that he was fully aware of the various thoughts within the movement. Why was it necessary to wait for his repose to remove this statement? Furthermore, the position of the GOCK in regards to grace amongst the new calendarists has only relaxed among recent years with the union of the Cyprianites and the GOC under Chrysostomus Chiusis, with the Synod now refusing to make any definitive statement on the matter.
They
Tony
fall
have
automatically
refused the
under these
curry that I
canons, and
bathed in.
therefore they're
Do
no
you
longer
want a
like
bowl?
valid or something, like it's a magic trap card that's sprung on you. But that doesn't seem to be the way that canon law is applied, even according to the Rudder. And again, there are people who can articulate this much better than I, but I say this as somebody who had to wrestle with some of these questions before journeying into the Orthodox Church, because these were some of the critiques that I had when I was a Protestant. And, I brought these up in not all of these exact arguments, but these arguments regarding canon law. I brought these up in my dialogue with Jay, and I had to untangle these before I journeyed into the church. But let me see if I can find this citation here from the Rudder, because this is something that Father Heers discusses a lot.
Can you tell my audience what the Rudder is? Because people may very well not have heard of it.
It's by Saint Nicodemus of the Holy Mountain. It's their book on canon law. Hold on one moment. It's one of our books on canon law, but it's by Saint Nicodemus. This was what I was looking for. This is from the Rudder. This is Saint Nicodemus. This is a footnote to Canon 3 of the Holy Apostles. The header of this is canons cannot defrock or excommunicate. So they can't do that by themselves. It's a little bit of a longer citation, so give me just a moment. "We must know that the penalties provided by the canons, such as deposition, excommunication, anathematization, are imposed in the third person. According to grammatical usage, there being no imperative available, in such cases, in order to express a command, the second person would be necessary. I'm going to explain the matter better. The canons command the synod of living bishops to depose the priests, or to excommunicate them, or to anathematize laymen who violate the canons. So it's the bishops that have to apply them.
Okay.
It's not us thinking in our own head, oh, well, it seems like this guy violated this, so he's activated the trap card. Therefore, this justifies me running off and starting my own trailer park church.
Right.
Like, that's not the case.
Right.
And anybody thinking that way,
isn't that liberal? Isn't that itself a liberal activity?
Yeah, of course.
Cleve has a misconception about true Orthodox ecclesiology, assuming that we have broken from the state hierarchies solely due to canonical violations, asserting that true Orthodox churches hold to a belief that the canons have penalties which apply independent of a synodal body, and that in our mind this justifies our separation. However, as true Orthodox, we have not broken from the state hierarchies due to canonical violations. We justify our separation in the fact that the state hierarchies have failed to uphold the confession of the faith, and have fallen into the ecclesiological heresy of ecumenism. This fact alone justifies our separation, as witnessed to by the 15th canon of the 8th Oecumenical Synod, which states, "But as for those who on account of some heresy condemned by the holy synods or fathers sever themselves from communion with their president, that is because he publicly preaches heresy and with bared head teaches it in the church, such persons as these are not only not subject to canonical penalty for walling themselves off from communion with the so-called bishop before synodical clarification, but they shall be deemed worthy of due honor among the Orthodox. For not bishops, but false bishops and false teachers have they condemned, and they have not fragmented the church's unity with schism, but from schisms and divisions have they earnestly sought to deliver the church." Additionally, while true orthodoxy is not a monolith when concerning questions of ecclesiology, our most influential figures have completely rejected the idea of auto-excommunication, such as our founder St. Chrysostom of Florina, who writes, "It is true that in our publications, in defending ourselves against the sentence of deposition passed against us by the synodal tribunal which the innovating hierarchy convened, we called the innovating hierarchy schismatics, for having created grounds for a schism in the Orthodox Church of Greece, by introducing the innovation of the Western calendar, and for having cut themselves off from the other Orthodox churches, which held fast to the Orthodox calendar in their celebration of the feasts, and that we have imputed to them the blame and the fearful consequences entailed by the nascent schism in the peaceful and right-believing life of the Church. But we have called them schismatics, and we do not hesitate to this day to call them such. However, not actually, but only potentially. For the former, that is, the proclamation of an innovating clergyman or layman who departs from the enclosure of the Orthodox and divine canons as actually schismatic, is a right that belongs only to a synod when it assembles and states its opinions with the aid of the Holy Spirit, as I have said, whereas the second, that is, calling such a clergyman or layman potentially schismatic, is the right of any Orthodox clergyman who is justified not only in severing ecclesiastical communion, but also in denouncing him to a competent synod, which is precisely what we did in denouncing the innovating hierarchs to the Orthodox churches. In our view of the matter, we are in harmony with the Pedalion of the Universal Orthodox Church, which in the first footnote on page 18 makes a clear distinction between a potential and an actual schismatic, and calls those who equate these two terms foolish, and their language sacrilegious, since they do not understand that unless it is actually implemented by a synod, the imperative force of the canons remains unexecuted, and does not act of itself either immediately or before a decision. While the idea of auto-excommunication may be present within true Orthodox circles, it was not the methodology which drove the bishops of the true Orthodox Church of Greece to wall itself off from the innovating hierarchies, and it is by no means the position of the genuine Orthodox Church. The Synod, acknowledging the differences in opinions when concerning this matter, have stated, "In the end, we need to realize that the true Orthodox Church ought not to cultivate the mistaken impression that her unity is founded on our view of the mysteries of the new calendarists. On the contrary, her fidelity to apostolic teaching and succession should be the focus of her unity."
But I think the largest issue is the points that they're making today aren't even the points that led to their splitting away in the first place. Because, like you said, initially it's the calendar issue, it's other things. Now they're saying, oh, it's ecumenism, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. Well, that wasn't the original reason. And if you're going to say that, then go look at your history. There's photos of true Orthodox archbishops behind the iconostasis with Anglicans.
Okay.
So I mean, you know, flip the tables and look at, you know, this would impact you as well at certain points in history.
Cleve asserts that the original reason for the separation of the genuine Orthodox Church from the state hierarchy was not due to the heresy of ecumenism, but instead due to the change of the festal calendar within Greece. He then makes further claims, stating that we too have had issues with the heresy of ecumenism, and that we maintain a hypocritical position. However, Cleve's separation of the calendar issue from the heresy of ecumenism is a false representation of the history. The heresy of ecumenism was the driving force behind the change of the festal calendar. The change of the Orthodox festal calendar had begun to arise in the 1920s, when the Patriarchate of Constantinople released an encyclical titled Unto the Churches of Christ Everywhere, in which it was stated that the Western churches were fellow partakers in Christ's promise, and stated that our own church believes that rapprochement among the various Christian churches and communion among them is not excluded by doctrinal differences which exist among them. The document further stated that rapprochements between the various Christian bodies was of much benefit, and supported the adoption of a common festal calendar so that all churches may celebrate the feasts simultaneously. St. Chrysostomos of Florina writes in a report to the governing synod of Greece that, quote, "It is well known in ecclesiastical circles that the church activities of the main proponents of the calendar innovation, namely Meletios Metaxakis and Chrysostomos Papadopoulos, ascended to the thrones of the Greek churches with the undisguised purpose of leading them towards modernization, meaning towards Catholicism and Protestantism. The change of the calendar is a topic which could take up an entire video in and of itself, and I intend to present a deeper treatment of the issue in an upcoming video, in which I will attempt to provide a detailed history of the old calendar movement in Greece from 1924 to the present day. To the charge which Cleve asserts about old calendar hypocrisy, it is important to note, as Cleve admits himself, that the canons do not apply without a synodal body to apply them, and that our separation is based on doctrinal statements, not the violation of the canons. Additionally, the examples he provides does not serve the purpose of reinforcing his point as he would have liked it to. Cleve is referring to this photo of Archbishop Vitaly Ustinov, in which Anglican archbishops can be seen behind the iconostasis. What Cleve omits, however, is the fact that this incident was not an example of an ecumenistic joint prayer. The church was being lent to true Orthodox bishops by the Anglican Church, and they were simply there to observe a consecration which was taking place. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I try to post true Orthodox content every few months, and put a lot of work into my videos.